What's up, booktube? It's Mia coming at you again with another book review, and this is going to be a good one, not like the last few books I read. This one was pretty good. I gave it a 4 stars and enough suspicion. Let's jump right into it, and that is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Abertali. I think that's how you pronounce it. I have been avoiding this book for the longest time. I thought it was another one of those overly hyped, it's what's trending, so everybody's going to love it books. And I gotta say, guys, I am so glad I read this. And I really only read this because I saw Leah on the Offbeat. Everybody was like raving about that book, and I knew I don't know why I felt like I wanted to read that one, maybe because it was like a female protagonist, but I knew if I was going to get her, I needed to read this first. So I picked it up, and I gotta say, I actually sat and just breezed right through this book. It was that amazing. Just as a disclaimer, as always, this review will contain spoilers. So if you haven't read the book, go back and read it, come back, and then let's discuss. Let's jump right in. This book follows Simon. He is a closeted gay teen. He is not out yet. His friends don't know about his sexuality yet, and he's still kind of dealing with it also too. And he follows a series of emails with this other kid who's also closeted, and they email each other back and forth. This other kid, Martin, finds the emails and is pretty much blackmailing him and saying like, hey, if you don't hook me up with one of your friends, I'm going to, share these with the whole school. That's pretty much what the story is in a nutshell. This book is the perfect example of a strong plot or theme or storyline, whatever it is you want to call it, with weak characters. I gotta say, I wasn't really a fan of the characters themselves. I thought they were a little bland. I liked Simon. I did like Simon, but everybody else was kind of like there. It was like you had the best friend, you had the best guy friend, you had the loving teacher, the doting parents. Like, it was like your typical A characters, but I mean, it wasn't nothing memorable. I love the way how this book was written. It was just like for kids and teens, especially of today, who has not come out yet to society or their parents or whomever. It really judged it down to, this is what other people are going through too, that you are not alone, and besides the blackmailing part. But I'm pretty sure that there are millions of kids, well, stop saying kids, teens, and even young adults and adults out there who feels the stigma of feeling like they can't come out because they don't know what it is. One of Simon's problems was his father made like a lot of gay jokes, and of course that made him uncomfortable. Like, why would he be ready to come out if his father makes jokes like that? This book also had like a lot of weird parts to it for me, in the sense like when when Simon did come out, and his family was kind of just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that's good, that's great. And they kind of went on about their day or whatever, and he was expecting a little bit more. I guess me personally, I was expecting a little bit more too, but then again, I don't know, maybe that really is how it is. Maybe how they always say, like, yourself, so you always knew that there was a part of you that wasn't straight. Maybe when it comes to a parent and your kids, it's the same thing. It may not be as openly as, like, I think my son is gay, but more so it's like, he's not really, I don't know. So yeah, we can just go on from there. I think the story pacing was like very good. It did keep me on my toes. I love the emailing parts because it was also like them being in their most raw and descriptive selves, because they didn't know who each other was. The only thing that they did know was that they both went to the same school, and they went by different like internet names, and that they could come and talk to each other. I got so into the emails that I was even starting to read like the little like timestamp on there. I was like, oh, well, Simon wrote to him at like 10:30 at night, and Blue didn't respond back until like 8:30 the next morning. So I thought that was, even if it was like an unconscious thing, it made it even more real, because we as readers were reading it as if, oh, like a text message, but it's not. It's like the angst of waiting for the one that you have that crush on to call you back or to email you back, or whatever the sense may be. Even the whole, he wanted him to give him his phone number. He was like, well, we can text, we don't have to necessarily talk, but I want to be able to communicate with you quicker. I want to hear your voice, and Blue was kind of like hesitant on it. I thought it was like totally believable. It's like it's so much easier to communicate via email or even text messages without having that physical contact, because sometimes you don't want to obliterate the fantasy. And I think when they first started, like that's what it was like the fantasy. Like I said, I want to jump back to the characters per se. It was sad that Simon and Blue had a much, believable friendship to me than Simon did with all of his friends. Like when the whole Tumblr thing came out and Martin posted on there, he pretty much outed Simon. And his friends was like, Nick and Leah came over to his house, and instead of just flat out just like telling him, hey, this thing is out here, is it true, what's going on, are you okay, they kind of was like, oh yeah, well I'll just talk to you later, and they like bolted and left. And I was just like, I don't think that that's going to be believable when in another scene we have Leah, who was like pretty much almost devastated because Simon didn't tell her first that he was gay, and he told Abby first, and she took that like, oh well, I've known you for X amount of years, but you tell Abby first. I thought it was just kind of just like, well, you wasn't going to tell me that, my name was being slandered all over the place. And then the whole fact of when the play rehearsal and those two idiots came in with the big signs that was taunting Simon, and it was, I forget her name right now, but I think her name was Taylor, the lead in the school play. Like she ran down to like was damn near ready to like beat them up, and I thought it was going to be like a backstory of like she had like a family member who was gay, or she was herself, or anything. But it was just like out of nowhere. And you had Abby standing, well, Abby did run off, I'll give her that, but you had Abby there, and everything, when people started making fun of him, it was like, where was Nick and Leah at that time? So that kind of pissed me off a little bit on that end. Even Abby was a little annoying to me. She was kind of like just like a little bit too perfect, and Nick was like all over her, and like I said, Simon clinged to her as like, oh, you're my friend, but you only been here for like a couple of months. I don't know. I think that could have been done a little bit differently. I mean, I don't know exactly how, but I found myself kind of glossing over anything that had to do with her. But like I said, overall, I love the story. I think it was great. I think this is like the perfect book for somebody to read who is still kind of trying to determine what they are, or how to come out, or accept who they are. And it's not like over your head. It's not some deep psychological like, this is what you must figure out. It was a cute story. Overall, it was a cute story. I love the fact of who Blue was, and I won't mention that just in case if I still left the book kind of vague enough. I won't say who Blue was, but I totally guessed it. But as the story went, in the beginning, I guessed who it was, but as the story went on, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, it could be anybody now at this point. The fact that, okay, so Simon came out in this book. He's supposed to have been like, I'm still trying to figure out if he was supposed to be like the first one to come out in this school or not, because you remember Calvin? I think his name was Calvin. Cal. The other guy that was in the play, they was like giving each other like, the flirtatious eye like throughout the whole book, but I guess he never came out that he was gay. The guy that Blue turned out to be, of course, he never came out he was gay, but it was just kind of like, well, there's a lot of gay guys walking around in this school and no one's came out yet. That was kind of like unbelievable for this book. I was like, if you're going to have so many side-eyed characters, I think somebody would have been out by now. And the fact that Simon was put out there when he could have easily had just said, it's not true, like my best friends are girls, and I think he could have covered that up too. But I mean, like, if it's out there, it's just out there. So I don't know, I'm rambling, but overall, point blank, I love this book. I did give it a 4 stars, like I said, only because I thought the character was flat, but I did love the story. Definitely something to put in one of the best books I've read so far, and I'm so glad I did, because when I first picked it up, I was in a slump, and I think I got through like a chapter or 2, and I really just wasn't feeling it. And then I picked it up again this time, and it's like reading a completely different book. Like, I don't even remember those first 2 chapters the way that they were here, and I know it was the same book. So yeah, that's it. I don't think I have anything else I wanted to say about the book. I think I hit all my notes this time. But anyways, for those of you who stuck around, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.